I'm Tyler.
I'm Zubair.
I am a Christian.
Probably calling me an atheist if you insist on a label.
I voted for Trump 3 times.
I think he's a fascist.
I'm an omnivore.
No animal flesh, no animal secretions.
And we're best friends.
We talk about everything and we disagree on a lot.
But there has been this progression, and you called it a slippery slope, saying that eventually it's just going to lead to pedophilia. And I think that's just bad thinking. Yes, the circle has been expanded, right? We now include trans people, along with the rest of the LGB group.
Two-spirit, IA plus.
Those are still on the fringes, but yeah, along with the rest of the alphabet, right? Trans people and other small groups are now included as well. But no one on the left is condoning pedophilia, aside from very, very fringe groups. Like NAMBLA is not a group that's getting any kind of traction on the left or the right. So I think like the slippery slope argument doesn't work because there is a wall that, as a society, we're all agreeing is 18 years old. If you, as an adult, take advantage of a child who is under 18, that's morally reprehensible. And I don't think that's going to change no matter how many other groups we add into the alphabet soup that we accept as a society.
Why would you think that we're going to stop at consent?
Let me switch headphones again. They just died on me.
Okay.
But you asked, why would I think we're going to stop before pedophilia?
Yeah, and maybe we don't even go down that road. But if we've said, well, marriage is really only between one man and one woman, and then we say, well, it can be between a man and a man. Well, maybe it can be between a man and a boy. Maybe between a man and a dog. What we legalized in Ogberfell was not gay marriage. What we legalized was same-sex marriage. And there's a difference. Specifically, gay people could always get married. They just couldn't marry somebody of the same sex. If a gay man and a lesbian woman wanted to get married, for whatever reason, they could legally do that. But now, a man that is heterosexual can marry another heterosexual man. That's a really big problem. That is very unfortunate for the benefit structure of the country. The country has a vested interest in protecting marriage because it produces children.
So I might have missed part of that, but let me try to summarize your argument against Ogberfell. You're saying that it is going to lead to less children overall in the country, and it also might lead to people wanting to marry their dogs or children. Are those the two main arguments that you made there?
Ogberfell legalized marriage between same-sex individuals. And what this does is destroys the incentive structure that should be in place for any self-interested nation. A nation has an interest in producing children, because without that, you collapse as a nation. If you're going to incentivize people to get tax deductions, you should have something in it. And that's the whole reason, presumably, that tax deductions exist. The government wants to incentivize you to do certain things and disincentivize you from doing other things. Now, we have said, well, anybody can get a tax deduction. Doesn't really matter what gender they are, whether or not they can produce children and rear them and raise them. And there's all sorts of research that says that individuals that are raised in a heterosexual parent household do substantially better than those raised in gay households.
Fact check that.
Yep, we'll do the fact check on that. And that is something that a nation should be interested in. You can't produce children. You don't get the produced children tax deduction.
Gotcha. So you're not making the dilution argument. Two responses there. I don't think that one, letting two gay men marry is going to create less children overall. Those gay men presumably weren't going to have kids in the first place unless they drag some poor unfortunate woman into like a life of misery.
Which they do.
So
they create surrogates. This is a real market and it's really happening.
Then your argument falls apart, right? Because now the gay folks are having kids, right?
Except that their children are substantially worse off by many measures. Like 80 out of 100 measures, they're worse off. We'll find the data.
So I doubt that strongly, but either way, your argument that letting two gay men marry leads to less children, I think falls apart because either one, the gay men weren't going to have the kids in the first place, or if you're arguing that two, these gay men are instead having surrogate children, then you're not getting a net loss in children. And I don't think like your idea that letting gay men get the legal protections of marriage somehow leads to less kids. I don't think it holds up.
It's the incentive structure. Why would you pay gay men to get married as a country?
I think I was making the argument that I think I made the point that I don't think the reduction in kids is a good counter argument for um, against allowing gay marriage, and then I made the point that I don't think people who are gay get married for the tax benefits. I think they do it for more important things like declaring their love to their community, having protections when it comes to end of life issues.
But they could have done all those things without legal marriage. You can sign a power of attorney. You can have a religious ceremony or a communal ceremony. You don't need to have the legal document that says you're married. You can file jointly now.
So I think
But that's what Ogberfell was about.
So I think the last few times we got into this, I think the conclusion that we came into is that maybe the government should just get out of marriage completely.
Which is a shame because I think the government should incentivize good behavior and discourage bad behavior. And getting married is decidedly a good thing for society as a whole. Men who get married are substantially more stable than those who aren't. They earn more money, they're healthier, they live longer, they produce more. It's a good thing for society to incent, but because we can't figure out a way to not discriminate against sexual deviancy constitutionally, then we have to get rid of it.
Well, if it's a good thing for people to get married, why shouldn't we encourage gay people to get married rather than living, some kind of debauched lifestyle with multiple partners?
Because getting married doesn't make the relationship holy. That's not the magic sauce that makes it a good thing. It's the fact that when you are a man and you marry a woman, you produce children, suddenly now you have an incentive to not kill yourself doing crazy things or go off on crazy ideologies. There's a very grounding effect for society as a whole because you've produced a family. The same cannot be said of two gay men. Also,
they can adopt, right? Or have
they can. That's also a very bad thing for society. I don't think that's a good thing for society. And I think that the society will reject that conclusion because they don't want to be bigots. Well, too bad. Truth is truth.
So because your argument hinges so strongly on this idea that kids just do worse in gay households, I think we should take the time to actually fact check it right now live. So I'm going to ask my AI, you ask your AI, and let's see what they come up with. All right. So which AI are you using, and what are you asking it?
This is Brave AI, which is just the search engine and that gives you an AI result. This is compare the outcomes of children raised by gay parents to those raised by heterosexual parents. And Brave says the kids do just fine under gay parents relative to heterosexual parents. And research from the UK, US, Australia consistently shows that children raised by same-sex partners perform just as well academically and socially as their peers in heterosexual families. And I don't believe it. So controversial studies such as Regnerus 2012 reported negative outcomes, but have been widely criticized for their methodological flaws, such as comparing children who experienced family instability with those from a stable heterosexual home, rather than comparing stable same-sex families with stable heterosexual families. And this is going to get into our climate change debate, and frankly, any debate that I disagree with, that the mainstream opinion is one I disagree with. If you disagree with the research, you can just undercut the research and say it was biased and it was poorly done and it had methodological flaws. And okay, fine. I don't think that you should engage in behavior that is sinful, and I think that that action is going to have negative repercussions for you and for those around you. I am not okay with having gay men raise children, nor gay women. I don't think teaching them something that is sinful through their behavior is an okay thing. I think it's a particularly nasty thing for the left to endorse. And the Catholic Church is in agreement with me. I'm Protestant, but the Catholic Church has gotten kicked out of many states for refusing to foster children to gay couples, because this is something that the Christian church believes so strongly. This is not something that we want to have happen.
So I think you're on more solid ground when you resort to your sin argument, but I'm gonna just hammer in on the data-based argument because I think you either need to abandon that position or modify it in some way. So let me start by just saying what I asked AI. So I went to Gemini and I asked, do kids do best in heteronormative households? And it said that this is a question that's been studied extensively by sociologists, psychologists, and child welfare experts over the last several decades. And the short answer, based on the consensus of major professional organizations, is that a child's success isn't determined by the gender or the sexual orientation of their parents, but instead by the quality of the relationship and the stability of the home environment. And then they cite a study from Cornell. So it's a project that Cornell University does called What We Know, and I imagine they cover a broad range of topics. And this is one of them. So they did a meta review of 79 studies conducted over several decades, and 75 out of the 79 studies concluded that the kids of gay or lesbian parents end up no worse than the kids of heterosexual parents. So I think it's just a fact that the broad majority of experts over many decades have found no evidence that kids do worse in gay households. So I think you either have to...
It's like they found out that the polar ice caps are melting.
Yep, I know you disagree with that, but we can have another episode about climate debate. So I think you have to either abandon the argument that kids do worse in gay households, or you have to, if you're going to attack the data, tell me why you're disagreeing so strongly with.
Yeah, there's a vested interest. There's a powerful agenda at work that wants to push this, and they have connections to academia. Academia knows exactly how to push their narratives, and I've seen them do it so many times that I just don't trust it. I have a prior based on my own personal experience and my religion, which is substantially older than Yale or Harvard.
Cornell.
Cornell.
But yeah.
Than academia in general. And so I think I'm on more solid ground there than, well, the editors over at Harvard and Cornell decided that study wasn't very well done, but this one was. The study that they poo-poo and say, well, that was methodologically flawed, says, compared with children raised by their married biological parents, their intact biological family or IBF, children of homosexual parents are much more likely to have received welfare, have lower educational attainment, report less safety and security in their family of origin, report more ongoing negative impact from their family of origin, are more likely to suffer from depression, have been arrested more often. If they are female, they've had more sexual partners, both male and female, are more likely to be cohabitating, are 4 times more likely to be currently on public assistance, and on and on and on. There's, I think, like 80 different metrics that was used by whatever his name is, Ragnarus.
Yeah.
And we know that this is the case already. We know that gay individuals have a much higher rate of depression and suicide. It's ridiculous how high the rate is. And they will attempt to blame that on people saying, well, you just don't accept me enough. And that is still not the case. When you control for those individuals who live in community, they abuse alcohol more, they abuse drugs more, they have an insanely higher number of sexual partners, which now exposes them to higher rates of STDs. There's all kinds of things that are messed up psychologically, physically, and emotionally in individuals with same-sex attractions. And that's not currently under debate, but why that's the case is under debate. So it's not a stretch at all for me to say that class of individuals, when they raise children, are going to raise less healthy, less well-adjusted children. It's not something that the country should endorse.
So yeah, this is one of those arguments that I think feels good, but I think you have to look at the data. So if we had asked AI and it had said, kids do worse in gay households, I think the right move would have been, oh, okay, well, Tyler's making a good point here, and maybe society should rethink, some of the changes that we've made in the past few decades. But I'm not even attacking the the 4 studies that found for you. I'm just saying that the breadth of the research out there, so 95% of the studies find against you in this case. They find that, kids do just fine. We're leaving aside, the argument of what happens to people with deviancy. I don't want to say deviancy. What happens to, gay people in adulthood? Because I think you're right, their outcomes do tend to be worse, but that's a chicken and egg situation where you might want to argue, is society's discrimination part of the worst life outcomes? But leaving all that aside, I think if you're going to argue that, kids do worse in gay households, the reality of the last 30 years doesn't support your position. So I think you have to either...
Academia, anyways. The data coming from academia does not support my position. I have been pushed to the margin by academia.
But it's academia looking at society, right? Like,
okay.
And this is how else are we going to answer this question, right?
Yeah,
like,
you're right. If you don't have the data to back your position, you are by definition now operating on fringe conspiracies. That is the power of academia.
Yeah. So this is our best knowledge of the world that our society currently presents. So I think you can't just ignore it, is what I'm saying, right? I think you either have to do a deep dive like you did with with climate change and say X, Y, and Z, or why I think 95% of the studies are wrong.
You're right.
Or you have to say, I know this is what academia says, but I'm choosing to rely on my religion or some other framework. I don't think you can just make the statement, kids do worse in gay households, without in some way acknowledging that the majority of the research says otherwise.
Yeah,
you have to address
so I
it
would
somehow.
say that the reason for that is the political bias motivating that research, just like it is with climate change, just like it is with many other political issues. And I know that that's the tail wagging the dog. I know that that's how that happens. And how do I prove or disprove that? Well, stuck. Can't do it. If you're not going to use the data, then yeah.
You could I mean, we could probably ask the AI, like, look at these 79 studies and, are the authors, do they cluster? Are they all minorities? Did all of these studies come from gay people, right? Like,
are they all funded by the Open Society Foundation? Yeah, those kinds of things.
So there are ways you can stress test that idea.
Thanks for tuning in to the Manifold Podcast. We hope you learned something you didn't know about the opposite side of one of your positions. If you want to see the fact checks in real time, you can watch the podcast on YouTube. We'd love to get your feedback on what you enjoyed and what we can improve on. You can send an email to themanifoldpodcast@gmail.com. And remember, keep listening to one another.